Neighbouring West Bengal is the new state of Jharkhand. Nestled in the North Chotanagpur plateau of Jharkhand is Hazaribagh, a place of 1,000 gardens. Till even 150 years ago, Hazaribagh and Chotanagpur were covered with inaccessible forests. Present-day Hazaribagh traces back to 1780, when the British set up a cantonment there. Thereafter, Hazaribagh grew and became an important centre of British administration. From the 19th century onward, many Europeans and Indians settled there. The development of mines around Hazaribagh added to the flow of people. The Bengali community in particular contributed to the town's development. The cool climate and the quiet environs of Hazaribagh attracted European missionaries to set up institutions in the town. The Dublin Mission has a big presence, with educational institutions and a hospital. In the early 20th century, the Belgian missionaries built a seminary with well-laid-out orchards at Sitagara. And in these congenial and salubrious surroundings arrived the Australian Jesuit mission to set up St. Xavier School at Hazaribagh. Of the first 6 Australian Jesuits, it was Father John Moore who was appointed principal of St. Xavier's Hazaribagh. It was the beginning of a long and fruitful chapter in Jesuit education in the region. The school is not the same. In the early morning stillness, nothing seems to be moving. But the school has been a book of changes.
And the school was to start on the 28th of January. I came to St. Xavier's on the 28th as a student, and we had an assembly on the southern side of Balmoral. We had an assembly and there were just 30 plus boys in those days.
When we came to this school, there was just 2 buildings. One was Balmoral, and all the classes were in Balmoral, including dining room and chapel for the Jesuit priests. Our own living accommodation was the dormitory, which was adjacent in the hutments.
Bulu Imam, one of the first day scholars to join in 1952, was privy to the school's foundation and expansion in the early years. He made an artist's impression of the school's layout back then. Balmoral, situated on a picturesque 5-acre plot, was the first property the Jesuits acquired. A round building that still radiates truth and love in all directions. Next was Hampton Court on the right, a large double-storied building taken on lease. Popet Villa, known to many Hoxons of the later 60s as Sopan's dormitory. And behind it, the Beehive Bungalow, also rented from the Sopan family next door. The old block, planned as a dormitory and dining room, was the first structure the school built 50 years ago. The infirmary building housed a clinic and the sick room on the ground floor, and the junior dormitory above. And the sprawling oval. That particular plot was a Khas Mahal lease. The lease plot remained free to become what it still is, a beautiful, well-grassed sports field. Except for Balmoral, most of the earlier buildings don't exist anymore.
I found that in Hazaribagh, there was a lot of sports being played there. And not only among the schools, but we used to have also sports played among the town clubs. And I remember participating in sports. I mean, some of us were treated like heroes after the game. So it was something that, we took very keen interest in it. And for this, I must say, I must thank Father Thwitz. He was my first coach. He was a dormitory in charge also. And he is the one, through his inspiration, I think our team did very well in most of the games.
As young scholastics, as we were called, we had a full day because we taught a full day's class. We then were with the boys. Father Moore's guideline for us was that wherever the boys are, you be with them. So that meant going for games, coming back, being with them for study. Then again, when they came, the only time we were free, when they went for meals, one of us would be there, the others would go and eat, and then someone would look after them, you'd go and eat. So you were with the boys the whole time, especially on holidays.
The special thing about our school, like I mentioned earlier, was that it's the total concentration on the personality of a person, rather than merely getting into coming first in school or very good in games, things like that. It was a total personality. That, I think, was an exclusive from that angle, as far as that school is concerned.
If I think about the time here, what I think is the most beautiful thing that I experienced here, which later on for 15 years I experienced in Bukhara still, was the John Moore touch, that personal relationship with the boys. The fact that it was a family, it grew, as did the school in Bukhara, but even though it grew, and the numbers now here are much larger than they were in 1951-52, the school still has that mark of John Moore, the personal touch.
Well, the school was well running at that stage, you see. He'd been here for about 10 years, and he was I suppose you call him a charismatic person, but he's a person who had grasped very deeply the meaning of education.
He could already see, at that time, what was happening. I don't know whether you remember. I remember him talking to the boys, saying the bourgeoisie sort of attitude to life. I get my car, I get my house, I get my refrigerator, and so on, and so I'm set. And he kept saying, no, there's more in life than this. There's more in life than just having all these good things, that there's much more, and that's why his ethics classes were that. They were about relationships between people, what's it based on, and so on.
So what he was interested in then was, not trying to take hold of that person, but to help that person to grow. Become more and more free, so they could be more and more themselves, and at the same time develop then the same idea of whatever they have by way of gifts for the service of God and others. Now he was very much aware of that, and he's very much aware then of helping people. And I think he created an atmosphere in the school where this was the aim of the school, and the boys picked up then, well, what we have to do is try and work together and grow.
Father Moore had chosen for the motto of the school, INVERITATE et CARITATE, which means in truth and love. A search for truth and a love of it, and sticking with it when it is known, and then to live in love of each other, and love of God as we develop religiously. At the time when I came, many people had been asking, what does this mean? So then I said, well, let me search. We'll have an alternative one for Hazaribagh, which I can say, now here's a classical Hindi one. So I liked that line from Tulsidas, in which Ram says to Bharat, I think you could check that, Ram says to Bharat, Parhit sarisa dharam nahi bhai. Parhit saris dharam nahi bhai. So, Parhit saris dharam nahi. There is no dharam which is like PARHIT, the welfare of another. So I thought that somehow summed up in Veritate et Caritate. So that became then an alternative motto. So I would tell people that beautiful one you see on the mosaic at the entrance and on the wall of the old building, that remains, that's the original inspiration. Now here it is said by a very revered Indian sage.
Memory is a treacherous guide. Please don't mind why Mr. Sinha is forgetting. After I joined St. Xavier's in '54, I invited you, play tennis. Yes, come down. Father Collins, my friend Kevin Cronin, then Michael Doyle, Father Ted O'Connor, Father Crotty, whom shall I tell? Everybody. Donnelly. And we played, we enjoyed, man. It is really enjoyable. After school or Saturday, Sunday, they would come and played. Michael Doyle said when he was the principal for 2 years, practically, 1970 to 71, yes. He said, Subodh, you take up behind the beehive, there was the court where they used to play. Moram court, of course, not cemented. Afternoon, after class, I would come back and go with my racket and coach the boys. Boys are very happy.
If I reflect on happy moments here, special moments that I'll cherish, would be the way we celebrated the house days, the house evenings. I can remember Peter Coleman used to sing his little song. There were a number of songs that were sung by different fathers. Michael Doyle made that one. What is it? Out upon the bay, all bound for Hazaribagh, many miles away. That was, he took that from the Seekers, I think, that one. Then, of course, a person like Peter Shave, you couldn't forget him, and Michael Doyle and their contributions in musicals.
We used to have such fun together, as all boys were naughty, so were they, but they were also very loving. We used to have our cinemas on Saturdays. I wonder if you remember the cinemas. It was a great day for the children on Saturdays, everyone putting extra hair oil in their hair and putting on their best shirts and pants and coming out and sitting with their friends. It was good fun. We teachers used to come sometimes and watch the films along with the kids. And then there were those great times of our parties, house parties. I remember the chicken I used to eat, any amount of it, and it was unending. And then the good old Allaudin bearer of that time, do you remember Allaudin? Yeah, he was a great man, and he used to come serving, and he'd come to me first with that chicken, see. I was very fond of it. And at that we used to have a lot of singing, a lot of talent, mouth organs, accordions and what not. The children used to be very talented. They still are today, but that era was an entirely different one.
Colosseum. I have not come to you as to a museum. I am not one of your trapezing tourists. Our meeting is the meeting of two old friends and old enemies. Colosseum. Those were the days. But that was like the end of a phase in our school's growth, you can say, in different fields, especially in speaking, extempore debates, other extracurricular activities like drama, music.
And then again we had these musical things, so I'd play something for you. Unfortunately, I can't blame the piano. I can blame myself because I've got older and my hands are not working as fast as they should. But of course the piano could have been in a better state. However, I'll play something that the boys always liked, Ladies of Calcutta. Maybe it will suit the boys from there. It may not sound as beautiful as it would sound before, but anyway, I'll try my best. So if you don't mind, I'll just take a break. you can tell, a good pianist will be able to tell that the piano is old and the player is old. Right. So that was one of our favorite songs, and I remember we used to rock it up in those days. Then there's a few from the dramas that we had. One of them I remember is from Father Doyle, who was then the principal, a great man, Michael Doyle, which he had Neverland. It used to be called Neverland. You boys present will remember that. I hope I'll remember the tune at least.
I think the musicals were what I liked best. I put them together, I wrote them myself. I stole these songs from all the major musicals, and because I did, I could get a loud song and a gentle song and then a love song and get the speed of it just as I wanted. And I then had to write the script in between, and I had Peter Shave who was able to take up the music, and I used to come back from times back in Australia. I'd come back with records and stuff and play them for Peter, and in that way we put the shows together.
So I was very lucky to be part of a musical, Green Mischief, and it was quite an experience. We stole from everything, particularly from Oliver, the musical on Oliver Twist. And I can remember some of the ones that were very beautiful songs. Was that one about, where is love? Does it fall from skies above? Is it underneath the willow tree that I've been dreaming of?
St. Xavier's Hazaribagh was quick to earn a unique reputation. In the mid-60s, when Bokaro Steel started, the plant management requested Father John Moore to set up a school there. Father Moore eagerly took on the challenge. Shoma Chaudhary is an ex-student of the Bokaro school. She is married to a Hoxton and now teaches English at St. Xavier's Hazaribagh.
Go ahead. Yes, Vashti? Your sentences.
He is good at studies, especially in maths. He is good at playing football. He is a good athlete. He is good in high jump. He is polite in behavior.
Science laboratories that did the school proud. Father Mullhearn, who arrived in 1954, was an MBBS graduate from the University of Sydney, the perfect teacher for science students.
The slides that you can see here, some of the slides still says made in Germany. So that time, the slides that he had at that time, we have still kept them. And I think today we won't get this quality of slides. Plus the project work, the perfection that he insisted on. Most of them are with us and they are always inspiring us to do the way he used to do things.
Father Mullhearn, he was the terror of everyone because he was absolutely, sort of fanatical about neatness. Everything had to be done perfectly. You've probably been taught by Father Mullhearn, so you know him. But he taught the boys to be accurate and to be careful, and everyone used to come back and say, because of him, we got through our university much better than others, because he taught us to be correct and accurate and not be slapdash.
A well-established school began to have a rethink on their priorities in the early 70s.
What happened really was a change of focus from our side, from the Society of the Jesuits around the world. There was a Father Arupe. In 1965, he was elected the General of the Society of Jesus. And in 1972, he had what they call General Congregation. And in that, he introduced this, what he called a preferential option for the poor, that in all our apostolates, we should have a preferential option for the poor. That means we consider the poor also as part of the work. And so in those days, people said here, this school is becoming very expensive because those days prices started going up. And like just the menu the boys had here with meat and eggs and milk and cheese and all, it was becoming impossible to cover with the fees. So every month we were issuing an extra bill to cover the extras, and it was just whatever was spent over and above the fees was divided up among the parents and they had to pay it. So it was becoming more and more expensive for people to come here. So this was excluding very much poorer children, which we didn't want to do. We wanted to be open to everyone and be able to take poorer children. Secondly, the townspeople were clamoring for admission in this school. They had begun to realize the value of English, that if their children know English, they can go to Aligarh, they can go to Delhi, they can go to Hong Kong, they can go to USA and fit in.
In the end, I think Father John Moore agreed that the future of our schools was day schools. The Bokhara Steel City, of course, had to be a day school, but see, he also realized, which all of us had seen, that Hazaribagh was no longer a small town. It was growing and growing, and there was a huge demand for admission. And if we were going to live in the town, then I think we had to listen to them more carefully. Father Grogan, for example, he was in the Lions Club. Father Moore was in the Rotary Club. He used to hear the opinions of the people in the town. And the fact was that over the early years of the school, although there was great respect for the school, there was some resentment that this excellent institution which was growing up was more open to boys from a distance than local boys.
So in view of that, we decided we need to change over to the more open school, and so we'll have to close down this hostel, although it was very hurtful for people like Father Moore and Father Grogan, because their whole lives had been dedicated to this. And they felt that we are, undermining this quality of the education here, opening it up to the town and so on. You won't get the same quality of students as you have up till now. So we said we have to face that. This is the society's asking us to be open to all, not just to the more elite people, more the richer people, but to be open to all classes of people. So that's why we went through this changeover from residential to day school.
During those years also, one of the pressures that had been on us was that we open a Hindi medium school in this area. We had no Hindi medium school here in Hazaribagh, so to do that also. So there were a number of pressures and requests coming in. So in the light of all of these, it was decided, all right, the hostel will close and the school will become a day school.
We started St. Robert's, which was here for many years. After the boarding closed, we made St. Robert's the middle school here, St. Robert's, and they ran here till 2001 or 2000. That was a Hindi medium.
Most of the Hoxons in those days were from Calcutta, and they had a kind of, I'm not sure, I don't remember the details of it, but they invited, I know Father John Moore was there, Jim Thwaites, myself, and maybe there were others, were invited down to Calcutta
to speak to them to try to explain what was the basis of this decision, because the feeling among them was a feeling of great disappointment. I remember they were saying we had hoped that as we enjoyed coming here and benefited from it, so that our children would also benefit from the same thing. So it was a genuine desire and appreciation really of what they had received. So we had this task really of trying to explain why it was that we had closed the boarding. And first of all, I had this idea, it was perhaps a bit idealistic, but I had this idea that you're putting now children that are better off with children who are economically not so well off. I was concerned about whether the better off children would dominate the others and so on. There were a number of considerations like this. So I started by saying we will have only one football team, for example. We will have only one cricket team. We will in other words, I was trying to get the idea that we're a community, a kind of reflection of the bigger society, and therefore we would have just one community, some better off, some doing English medium, some doing Hindi medium, and so on. This sort of, but perhaps a bit idealistic. So after a number of years at this, we decided, no, we'll just have two separate kind of schools.
The parish, or the Catholic ashram, was where Father Kevin Grogan took charge from the day he arrived in Hazaribagh.
In 2005 में जो आप देख रहे हैं ट्रांसफिगरेशन सब्जेक्ट से मुझे बनाने के लिए दिया गया, तो उसी से मैं कुछ बनाया जो अभी आपके सामने है। उसके बाद इधर देखिए राइट साइड में वो कुलवरी है जो झारखंड के प्रदेश को दर्शा रहा है, यहाँ पर अधिकतर कोयला मिलता है। उसके बाद इधर मेरे बाएं साइड ये है झारखंड का जो प्राकृतिक दृश्य है वही दिखाया जा गया है। फेस का जो लुक है वो फॉरेनर जैसा नहीं लगना चाहिए, जो भी होगा हमारा इंडियन लुक आना चाहिए जीसस के फेस में।
Two generations of the Dhans are connected to St. Xavier's. Abraham's father, Daud Dhan, worked as a kitchen staff, and his mother still works in the school. The school chapel has also undergone a transformation, with figures and murals getting the Indian touch. Christ as a Satguru. Despite the many changes over the years, the sporting spirit of the school continues.
We, the students of St. Xavier's, promise that we will take part in the 55th annual sports meet House, second Shadil Anwar Khan Widow House, and third for the top hero, former secretary. We cheers for Xavier House! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray!
From today's assembly, what did you learn? Very good. United we stand and divided we fall. Very good. So that means you need to be together. Yes? Is there any chance to fight if you are together? No. So you have to live that in your life, not only today, a days ahead also. Okay? God bless all.
The introduction of the primary school was a backward integration of the school's education system.
When I went there, they added a prep and a standard 1, which I don't think existed before that. I think the school started at standard 2 then.
We are the musicians, come from many lands. I can play, you can play. On a trumpet, toot 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 toot.
Changes occurred in the school syllabus also.
Since the school became open to more and more boys of Hazaribagh town and its environs, the standard of English was not as high as it used to be among the boys, standard of spoken English, because they were all living at home and talking either Hindi, Bengali or Bhojpuri or whatever was in their homes. So there was complaints among the staff that English was going down a bit. Secondly, from a lot of the students who had gone on to universities, they were complaining that CBSE students were given higher gradings in admission to universities. Now, at about that time, Father Tom Konunkel, who had started, well, he hadn't started, he was the first principal of St. Xavier's Delhi. He became the chairman of the Central Board of Education. So I paid him a visit and discussed the whole thing. And he sort of analysed it for me and said he thought that for a mufassal school in a small up-country town, as Hazaribagh was then, probably a CBSE school would be better. So with this information I came back, and again we had long discussions. So we decided to apply for affiliation, which we got eventually, but we kept the CBSE and the ICSE going for a couple of years still, until we tested the waters, see how it was going. And at the end of 2 years, again, the managing committee decided this looks better. So from that time on, we switched to CBSE.
As in earlier times, students continue with extracurricular activities, like educational excursions to historical places, and the ever-popular picnics at a nearby location.
I'm the apostle of coeducation, I must say. The first time I had entered into coeducation was in Manila when I was doing my Master of Education degree. It was just a different world. Coeducation, studying with girls in class and so on, was a different world. So I was convinced that the only way to teach young people is in coeducation. Boys and girls together. It's the only way that works. Boys become less jungly and girls become less giggly, and they all settle down and they all enjoy each other's company, Boys and girls love to be together.
वो दोनों लगते हैं थोड़ा मैच नहीं कर रहे ये दोनों कीज अब देखो मेरा एक बार सुनना ठीक है
Along with co-ed, +2 was also introduced in the school system.
And in the CBSE system, the normal termination of the CBSE schooling system is 12th class. So we were finishing at 10th. All right, that was allowable, but then difficult after that. So the normal termination was 12th class. And then as I saw the difference between those boys when they were in 10th class and when they were in 11th and 12th, they were facing all kinds of other difficulties, particularly study difficulties, because in 11th and 12th, they're very concerned with where will I go next year? What kind of decent college will I get into? I have to work hard, all that kind of thing. And at that stage, you could give them a lot of guidance and help to settle themselves down, study hard but within their capabilities. Some of them sort of, studied beyond their capabilities. They weren't clever boys, but they were determined to get into good colleges. And one of them I know blew his mind, and other things, difficulties occurred, people got sick and so on. So in the 11th and 12th class, you were able to be with the boys, with the boys and the girls, the students. You were able to be with them, to help them, and to give them decent guidance for problems which were very serious problems in a student's life, but which didn't occur up until 10th class. They occurred only in the +2 system, in the +2 time. So I started the thing on principle, but I was delighted with the way that it worked out.
Many of you perhaps would be aware that in the early 90s, Hoxha Hazaribagh chapter had become very inactive. It was at the behest of our patron, late Father Cronin and the principal, that in November 1998, we made an effort and to revive Hoxha, and we had a new team headed by Mr. Bikram Sen, and the main thrust being that we wanted to continue the social services which Hoxha was doing early on.
When I settled here as a doctor, I became involved in the Hoxha's activities in Hazaribagh. And the man behind all this was one of our Jesuit fathers, Father Donnelly. He was the principal at that time. So he sort of inspired us to do all these social works in and around Hazaribagh and in school also. As a result, we did a lot of social activities, medical social activities mainly.
The school never lagged behind in embracing technology.
About the history of this computer center, John Moore Computer Center. It was started in 1991, 11th April. Father Ryan was the man behind it. Being a Hoxhan, we used to talk in our meetings about a computer center to be here at St. Xavier's School.
Yes, so how the computers started, at that time I was just starting with computers with the administration side of thing and the accounting side of the school, and we were just setting them up. And I thought it would be a very good idea, but it was obvious it was a good thing for the students, the boys. So we were scrabbling around a bit in the beginning to get some money for it, but then the Hoxons helped us a lot, and we got donations. We called it John Moore Computer Centre because he was getting donations. People were sending money from Australia for him also. So we put it all together, and we had enough to buy, I think, about 20 computers. I've just forgotten, 20, 25, and started off, and it was a great success.
I mean, I was running the place on the old school, old style of discipline. I mean, what I say is what goes. I mean, it was guru-centered therapy. I'm the guru and you'll do what I tell you. But I began to sort of realize that there were kids who, their problem wasn't discipline as such. Like they were stealing things, they were getting into fights. And I realized this is not something you can handle by just, you know, laying down the law. So I then got in on the bandwagon. I didn't initiate this thing. It was really Bernie Donnelly and this Dr. Vinod Sinha who, and Sandip Mukherjee, who really were the main people.
The man behind all this was once again Father Donnelly. It was his idea to have a psychiatric clinic, and when he gave me the idea, and then both of us, we sort of went to Ranchi and had a talk with them. But it was actually Father Donnelly's idea to start a free psychiatric clinic. And it's been now 5 years, and we are doing exceptionally well.
This is the latest addition to the school campus. You recognize the old dining hall was here, and just beside that, in fact cutting half across that, is this new structure which is our new +2 building. We had to match it. We had to match it to this existing building. The original design was not like that. It was something different. But somehow it did not fit in with the identity of the school. The campus has its own identity, its own feel, and that had to be kept maintained. So you look at those columns, look at the chhajja, it's all identical, even the windows, the shutters, and everything has been maintained. That spot had been empty, and I felt that something is missing, always. So then I worked this out. Finally, we had this statue of St. Francis Xavier. Fits in, completes the structure.
The annual Sports Day meet is nowadays graced by Hoxon, a tradition introduced to honor the past.
The quality of our students, the quality of the results, performance of our students has remained, continued to this day. For example, the last several years now, and I've been telling the parents this, that more than 70% of our students score 80% around that in every subject. That I don't think any school can boast of, ever. So we are very consistent, our results have been very consistent, which means the quality of education has not gone down.
Apart from the school exams, students are also encouraged to appear for national and international competitions. Young Anurag Dwivedi was awarded a gold medal by the University of New South Wales for securing the highest grade in science. And his dreams are:
I expect to be a computer engineer from IIT.
I'll definitely opt for medical.
I am interested in computer science, so I want to be a computer engineer.
I want to do medical because I think that would be a good profession which will satisfy my needs and desires.
Bio is not my cup of tea, so I would definitely opt for engineering.
I want to become a chartered accountant, and if I get a chance, then I'll do MBA also.
I would like to see myself as an aeronautical engineer in future. Wow. Because I'm crazy about aeroplanes.
When I was here at St. Xavier's, I remember there was a choir we had. I only just thought of it now, so my mind goes back. We called it the Larks, and we had a number of occasions at concerts when we were able to sing, and they were standing in tiers and circular. It was beautiful. And one of them was that beautiful thing, Morning is Broken. So I'd just like to finish off this little sharing with something from that song. I can't remember the words very well, let me have a go. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the morning, praise for the sunshine, praise for the good God loving us all.